NBA.com Vlogtable. We've got a panel of NBA.com experts here to talk about the news of the day. The news of the day is the Miami Heat. We'll start with Fran Blindberry in Houston. We've also got Jeff Kaplan in Dallas. We've got Scott Howard Cooper in Sacramento. We've got Sekou Smith in Atlanta. And we've got Steve Ashburner up in Chicago. My first question to you guys, the Heat are on a 20-game win streak. As you all know, this thing may not end anytime soon. I just want to give you a general question here, and I'll start with you, Fran, in Houston. Is there something that impresses you about this Heat team more than maybe other teams that you've seen recently?
Well, I think that after last season and making the run to the championship, they know who they are now. You know, that first year when they went and lost to Dallas, they were picking it through everything. Last year they found an identity. They have it. They're playing with it, and that's what a lot of teams spend the whole regular season doing.
Jeff, what are the Heat? Fran's talking about an identity. What are they? What do you see them?
Well, and I think maybe John Schumann, who's not with us today, has written about this in the past. I believe it was John, in that this is a totally unconventional team, that they're throwing positions out the window, and that starts with LeBron, who really, when this team came together, I questioned how the heck does LeBron and Dwayne Wade play together unless LeBron becomes Magic Johnson, and that's sort of what he is when you look at his numbers. I mean, it's unbelievable. Obviously scores more than Magic at almost 27 a game, but his assists are at 7, I think rebounds at 8. So it's remarkable how he is really the initiator of this offense and the guy who has the ball all the time. And so you've got, I mean, watching the game last night, at one point it looked like every guy on the court was the same height. So they're completely throwing convention out the window. They're fast. They play defense. I think it's an amazing outfit, and I think you got to give Coach Spoelstra as well a lot of credit for really making this thing work, because, as Fran said 2 years ago, it started off a little sloppy. I remember 9-8 in Dallas, and LeBron bumping into Spoelstra, and everyone wanted him fired. So they've come a long way, and I think it's pretty amazing to watch what's going on there.
Scott, let's go to you in Sacramento there. This is a team that has did start off roughly, but right now I'm wondering if they are not just a prohibitive favorite. I'm wondering if it's silly to even talk about anybody else as an NBA champ this time. Can somebody beat this team?
Nobody can beat them in the East. It's not silly to say that. As much as we might say the Pacers are impressive, and as much as we might be curious of what the Bulls can be if they get Derrick Rose back this season, and that's obviously a big if, this is clearly the team. There's no one that's going to beat Miami 4 times in 7 tries in the Eastern Conference. But I'm not giving up on the NBA Finals yet. I don't think it's game over. I still think the Oklahoma City is really good, and San Antonio is really good. Right now we're not seeing the best of the Spurs without Tony Parker, but there's not going to be a 4-0 finals. I just can't imagine. Somebody's going to be competitive. Those are 2 good teams.
Sekou Smith in Atlanta, you saw them. You saw the Heat down in Indiana a few days ago. Indiana was going to be the challenger in the East. That didn't happen.
No.
Can somebody challenge him in the East, or do you see the West the only hope of getting past this team?
Yeah. Technically, I'm in Smyrna, Georgia. I'm not actually in Atlanta. Let's get that right. Give some love to my city and to my Smyrna Spartans. I don't know if anybody in the East is going to come close as far as a playoff series. Not even Indiana or New York, 2 teams that looked earlier in the season like they might have a chance to challenge the Heat. The matchups to me have to be more than just who matches up with D-Wade or with LeBron. It has to be who's got a bench that's deep enough, seasoned enough, and cohesive enough, like, to match them in a 2-week span where you have to see them every night. And I think the Thunder don't look like that team to me this year. San Antonio does, but I don't even know that the Thunder pose a real challenge to the Heat. I mean, they did lose, 5 games in the finals. I mean, it wasn't like the Thunder played a 7-game epic, and they had home court last year. So the only team that to me makes me think they've got a chance right now is San Antonio.
The next thing for these Heat, they're at 20 right now. 22 is the next step before they get to even start thinking about the record of consecutive wins, which is 33 by the Lakers. Fran, you were around. You saw a lot of that Rockets team in two streaks. What do you think?
Well, you broke up on me. I can only think that you were asking me about that rocket streak. That was a whole different situation. That was a team that sort of came together, found some cohesiveness. They did. The similarity though is they did it with defense, and what the Heat have become is this extraordinary defensive team that can shut you down. And the Rockets in the first 8 games of that streak did not allow a team to score 90 points. And they had big scoring games by Tracy McGrady. He had a triple double in there. Of course, they lost Yao Ming after 12 games, and they did the last 10 without Yao Ming. But what the Rockets did was they did not depend on hot nights by certain players. McGrady didn't have to carry this. They did it defensively, and so that's where the similarity is that Miami it's a great defensive team that can shut anybody down. Having said that, look, we're at 20. We're still barely over halfway to 33. I don't think it's going to happen.
You think the Rockets, they can reach the Rockets. You don't think they can reach the Lakers?
I don't think they can get to I think they can get to the Rockets. I'm not saying they will. That's not for sure. They're going to win the next couple. Interestingly enough, if they get to 22, then they play Boston in the next game. And that's where the Rockets streak at 22 ended. So little poetry there. But I think they talk about the Lakers, we are extremely premature.
Jeff Kaplan in Dallas, you've looked at that schedule a little bit. What's your thinking?
Yeah, well, they're on a tough, 5-game road trip right now with game number 2 coming up at Milwaukee, and then a game Sunday at Toronto, and then, as Fran mentioned, that next game is at Boston, and that's a back-to-back. So that'll be the third game in 4 nights, fourth and 6 nights at a Boston team that's obviously going to be pretty pumped up to play them. So, I mean, hey, look, Miami's talented enough to roll the rest of the schedule, but in the NBA that just doesn't happen. I mean, there's guys need some rest, and there's games where you just don't have it, and other teams are going to be up to play you. So, yeah, maybe 22 is it, but hey, Milwaukee's going to be tough. They've been pretty good since the trade for Redick at the deadline, and they lost to the Mavs the other night at home. But 33 is a long shot. I'd love to see them take a stab at it, but it's going to be awfully tough down the stretch. Then, hey, they got such a huge lead that maybe they even, if they get past 22, 23, maybe they start resting, once we get to April or something. So, it's hard to see it, stretching to record proportion.
Okay. Let me switch gears a little bit here, Scott. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the image of this team, and I know that's nothing that you can quantify with John Schumann numbers or anything, but this is a team that, people hated this squad when they were built. You still get the feel that people hate them at all?
I'm sure there's some dislike just because they're so good, but there's no question that the feeling towards this team has changed, mostly because the feeling towards LeBron has changed. Things were so bad when he left Cleveland for Miami because of the way he handled it or mishandled it, as the case may be, that and it became also the situation of this semi-dream team. It obviously wasn't perfect, but once they got LeBron and Chris Bosh to go with Wade, and of course they already had the glitz of Pat Riley. They were an easy target because of how it came together in image and in actuality. But I think last year changed a lot of minds. I think LeBron, without any doubt, changed the vibe, the emotions that people have towards him and therefore towards the team because of what he did, because of how he handled himself. Because it was no longer the talk about how good this guy can be, and you really saw him take that step forward and come into his own. He went right from that into the Olympics, and that was another very, very positive PR moment beyond what it meant on the court. Just PR-wise, it was a real plus. So I think there's no question things have changed. People still want to beat these guys, and there's still a lot of dislike towards the team, but that's much more a factor of them being really good, them being the favorites with the target on their back, than the emotional dislike that I'm sure lingers in some places, but not nearly as much as in general. And I'll just throw this out really quick, kind of piggybacking on what Fran and Jeff were just saying. And speaking of the emotions that some people still hold against LeBron, game number 24 of this streak would be, if it's still alive, at Cleveland.
That would be an interesting one. Sekou, this team, obviously, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but this team is a favorite to win this year. If they've got 2 in a row, you could see them winning 3 in a row. I mean, I know we're getting way ahead of ourselves here, but this team is that good. Is this good for the NBA, do you think, a team that is as dominant as this team is and could run off a couple of more titles? Is that good for the NBA?
I mean, good for what part of the NBA? I mean, it's people always scream about wanting parity and wanting everybody to have an equal shot at chasing the championship, and then you get a dynasty or a team that everybody thinks is the favorite, and you can't take your eyes off of them. So I think it's great for the NBA. I think rivalries and great teams are always great for sports, and I don't care what level it is. We are getting way ahead of ourselves, though. I mean, they're a prohibitive favorite. I've seen prohibitive favorites in the NBA bite the dust time and again. They were a prohibitive favorite when Dallas played them in the finals a couple of years ago, and we all know how that turned out. So I'm not even willing to give them a chance to get the 33-game win streak until they get to like 28. Until they get within arm's reach of it, I'm not buying that you're gonna catch that milestone either. I just think the good thing about this Heat team is that I think they're finally comfortable in their own skin, and they're playing like it. I think the Harlem Shake video, however maddening it might have been to some people, showed you a lot about what kind of comfort zone they're in as a group. And that's great for everybody, because that means LeBron and D. Wade are playing, with the kind of freedom you'd hope they would when they got together. There's a lot of pressure on them that first year, and then you don't reach the championship and win it. So the pressure is like, tenfold the next season. So for them to win a championship, get that monkey off their back a little bit, so to speak, now you get a chance to see this team in the light that I think a lot of people, namely other coaches around the league, were worried about them being this kind of team right away. And that would have been maybe a little more disastrous if they'd have been just a super dominant monster team immediately. It would have taken some of the drama out of them getting to the point they are right now.
Yeah, I will say that Shake video only bugged me the 50th time I saw it. But you were around them. You were around them a couple days. You were around them a couple days ago, Sekou. Do you think the streak matters to them at all?
No, and I said that, and I know some people probably thought I was, kind of taking the bait, but they know that nobody's going to care about this win streak if they don't win a championship. And LeBron understands that. I think the guy who really gets it in their locker room above the rest of them is Ray Allen, because he's played in this sort of situation before in Boston, where all the things Boston did the year they won it, no matter how many games they won and this and the other, if they hadn't won that championship, it would have invalidated, not only all the milestones they reached, all the records they set, but it would have made that initial press conference where Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett, and Paul Pierce are sitting there smiling and thinking, hey, we got a chance to win a championship. If you don't win it, all that stuff is just fodder for the blooper reel. So, the Heat have to win a championship. You have to finish this thing the right way. And if you don't, it takes everything else and kind of kicks it over the curb. Nobody cares.
Depending on how high they climb, how long they take this streak. I mean, that 71-72 team in L.A. with Wilt and West and Gil Goodrich and the others under Bill Sharman, that's a pretty storied team, and the win streak is just about as big a reason as the championship. I I don't think this win streak matters much to the Heat unless they get the record, and then it's going to matter a whole lot if they go on and finish their business. I've been asked here in town, Chicago, how does this team rank compared to the 95-96 Bulls team, the 72 victory team? And that's the high water mark. Again, you have to sort of get up there. You got to get to 70 before you're mentioned in the same breath, and you have to win. There's similarities in terms of caulking around the main guys, as Chicago did during its two three-peats with Pippen and Jordan. I think they're going to need to win again, and they're probably going to need to get back to the finals and maybe win again if you're going to start to look at them all time. Just because we've been spoiled a little bit by three-peats and multiple champions. When the Philadelphia team won in '67, what did they win? 69 games. That was great, but it started to lose a little luster when teams stacked up those Larry O'Brien trophies. It wasn't even called that then. It'll be interesting. And in terms of how long they can endure, I think that part of what's made them less hateable is that they seem a little vulnerable, even as good as they are right now. I think that people see that Dwayne Wade's, on the back nine. I think that Chris Bosh, he's not, on the same level as the other two guys. And I don't even know if he's a top 5 power forward, frankly, in the NBA right now. So I think that has sort of taken away some of the dislike and the sense of surrender. I mean, as good as they are, it's largely it's LeBron, and it's the way they're playing together. It's not simply throwing 3 stars out there on the floor night in, night out. So I think people, look at that and say, okay, maybe this won't endure. Maybe Bosh has to be moved, because of salary situation, the tax implications, whatever it is. Maybe Wade, starts a decline that everyone's anticipating. So, they face challenges of their own, not just from competition in the league.
I will wrap this up with one final rapid-fire question I want to go to all you guys. Steve, how do you beat this team?
You voodoo doll.
They're that good.
Fingers and
how do you
voodoo
beat
doll.
this team?
Injury to LeBron or D Wade.
That's the only way.
Yeah.
Scott?
You got to really make them pay on the boards. That's the area that they're vulnerable. That's why a team like Indiana can make it interesting. Again, I don't think that they have any chance to win 4 times in 7 games. But to beat the Heat, you got to really beat them bad inside.
Jeff Kaplan, how do you beat the Heat?
Well, I think Memphis has the best formula, and I think it's shown in the regular season with size and defense on the perimeter. And as Scott just said, rebounding. I think the size and just batter them inside. I think Memphis is the best shot. I don't know if they can get out of the West, though.
Fran, you get the last word. How do you beat the Heat?
Well, as Scott and Jeff just said, you got to beat them up inside. That's easier said than done. So the safer thing, Jeff Gululi. That's the guy who had the pipe and hit Nancy Kerrigan in the knee. Wow. On Tanya Harding's behalf. You go out and you whack LeBron, and that's how you bring him down.
Hey, Jalen Rose has admitted he did that to Kobe in the final, so,
We will end it up with that, Fran. Thank you very much. Thank you, guys. We'll do it again.